No doubt, over the years, many of you would have been involved with and taken part in school, college or university sports or athletic days. Now here in the UK, two of the common events are how far can you throw a cricket ball and how far can you put a shot. And so somebody's going to win this event, but you've got to consider, are they winning the event by narrow margin? Not because of their athletic prowess, but simply because the size, weight and fit of the ball in their hand is more perfect than the other competitors. And so simply, to try and throw this, it's quite a weight, it's quite large and it's an awkward fit in your hand, where if you switch to these other balls, they're a nicer fit. This one's probably a little bit too small. The tennis ball's probably a little slightly too big and light, but this pool ball is probably going to be perfect for my size and weight to get the furthest distance. Now, this is also something you have to take into consideration with your air rifle, whether it's spring powered, pump up pneumatic or pre-charged pneumatic. The size, weight and fit of the pellet can have a great effect on the performance of your air rifle, and also particularly with the fit in the barrel, accuracy. So here are some simple tests that I did recently, and hopefully you'll find these of some interest. Now, the air rifle used has got one of our regulators fitted, and it was set up to use the air arms diabolo field, which I've got down as being about 16.1 grains, and with these we'd set it up to be about 11.6 foot-pounds, and with this we were getting roughly about 85 shots, although the regulator kicked out at probably the high 70s, but then you get a very slow drop off. So we'll use that as the control. So from this, using the same rifle without altering the settings, we fired through it a selection of other weights and sizes of pellets, the heaviest being the 32 grain Challenger Orient Express, and the lightest being the Crossman domed or Crossman Acupel at 14.3 grains. Now, with the first two pellets, these very heavyweight ones, as you'll see, 32 grains and 30 grains, both of these were a no throw, and they had to be downsized until they were a nice and good fit in the barrel for us to get a good and consistent reading. Now, even with this, the heaviest pellet was only doing 7.64 foot-pounds on average. The Ely Magnum was doing 8.36, slightly better. There is a 2 grain weight difference. The Bisley Magnum, although it was actually a good fit in the barrel, was quite a poor performer at only 8.07 foot-pounds, where the Bisley Premier was actually slightly better than the pellets the gun set up for, and the control pellet. These were giving 11.62 foot-pounds, so very slightly better. Now, I must apologise as well, this obviously isn't an air arms diabolo field, but we thought we'd got a new tin, used a complete tin up testing, only to find that we hadn't, and so that is a combination of many shots through the chrono. Now, here's the JSB Predator with a little plastic nose cone in. I must say, a pellet that I wouldn't actually use myself, but some people might like it, and that was doing 9.6 foot-pounds. The Field Target Trophy was doing 11.06, and they're 15.55 grains roughly. Now, here's two interesting pellets, and they're very interesting because they're roughly exactly the same weight and the same design and manufactured by the same people. We've got the Ely Wasp 5.5 and the Ely Wasp 5.6, and I say exactly the same weight. There is a slight difference between them. One's registered down as 14.6 grains and the other 14.65 grains, but you'll see here that there's virtually a 2 foot-pound difference in the power output. Now, I must say that the Ely Wasp 5.6 was what could only be described as an excessively tight fit in the barrel, and it was a real click. to get it in, and this is obviously reflected in the power output. The RWS Superdome 14.5 grains was 10.62, and the Crossman domes, or Acupel as we call them in the UK, 14.3 grains and 10.46 foot-pounds. So here there's quite a range of weights and fits. So if you were going to go on the pellet weight and the pellet fit in comparison to looking at the output, obviously the too heavy pellets are far too heavy, even when sized down to be a good fit. The Bisley Magnum was better on weight, I feel, but without being sized, it was still quite a tight fit in the barrel, and I think it was at the choke end particularly. The Bisley Premier was nice to load. Obviously the Air Arms Diabolo Field was a nice fit that went in. The rifling marks when we looked at it were very good. The JSB Predator is, not far off the same weight, but performed a lot a lot less. This was because this pellet was a very, very loose fit in the barrel indeed. There was no real friction there whatsoever. And then we go up to the Field Target Trophy, which are the pellets I use mainly in my own rifle. They were quite good. But as we've already said, these Ely Wasp, I think the problem with those was mainly the fit in the barrel. They were both tight fit, but the 5.6 was just, you've got to push it in to believe it. And I was actually quite disappointed with the RWS Superdome and the Crossman domes. I think this 2 grain sort of difference in weight compared to the Premier and the Air Arms is the main factor for them having a less power output. As you can see, they're both about the same, but one's 14.5 grains and one's 14.3, and one's doing 10.62 and the other one's doing 10.46. So if you look at the weight comparison and the power comparison in comparison to the Bisley Premier and the Air Arms Diabolo Field, you can see that there's a comparable power loss due to weight. So both of these pellets are actually a nice fit in the barrel, and I think there's been quite a drop off due to the 2 grain weight difference. So when you're chronographing your gun and looking for the best pellet for you, if you're going to try and get the most number of shots, then this would be very important to do this. If you're not bothered about the number of shots, say for instance you're shooting rats, but you like to shoot quite precisely because a rat's a small target and it might be dobbing about up on the rafters, then the Bisley Magnum, you can obviously screw the power up so that it's near your power limit, but you're going to get a lot less shots. So let's have a quick look at the number of shots. With the Air Arms Diabolo Field, we were getting about 85 shots. That's not 85 regulated shots, that's 85 good usable shots. So the regulator was stopping working at about 76ish, but then there's a slow drop off. We then did the same tests using the Bisley Magnum, the Ely Wasp and the Crossman domes, or Crossman Acupel as we know them as, and as you can see there is a considerable difference between one and the other. So I mean that's 54, 64, 74, 84. That's what's that, about 1.5 times difference between one and the other. So this goes to answer another question that has been posed recently. It was a couple of weeks ago. One of the subscribers asked why we don't publish any data and say how good the regulators are, etc. This is quite simple. If you watch the other videos, the regulator is just an opening and closing valve. It's got one moving part, really, the piston, and obviously you've got the spring which moves as well, I guess. But there isn't really much to go wrong with them. They're either working or they're not. There's very little to go wrong. Most of it is in the setup of the air gun itself, the alterations of the valves, the springs, and also then, as you can see, choosing the correct pellet for your rifle, the one which is the most efficient. So you've got to take into account the pellet weight, the fit in the barrel, the length of your barrel, and the calibre of the rifle, so as to get the best one. So say for instance that question, going back to that question, so say we got an Air Arms rifle for instance, and we were getting 100 shots out of it using a particular pellet, and we just said, oh yes, you can get 100 shots from ours. Oh, no trouble, yeah, 100 shots. but then you find the most accurate pellet for what you want to do, all the weight, because you're rat shooting, is giving, and then you come back and say, oh, you said I'd get 100 shots. I'm not, I'm only getting 72. So depending on where you are in the world and what your power limit is, if you're somewhere where it's only 3 foot-pounds or you're somewhere where it's 30 foot-pounds, this will all affect the number of shots dependent on the pellet weight and fit within the barrel. So I hope you found this of some interest, and I was actually quite surprised with the range of figures on power output that we got. Normally we try and stick to 2 or 3 different types of pellet for setting up, and they all give out roughly the same sort of power reading. So to go for quite a wide range here, it was even interesting for us. And I hope you've enjoyed this video. Thank you very much.